GitHub. I guess before we start, could all the volunteers just introduce yourselves? Hi, I'm Varun from uh, Whitney 542, and I'm a senior this year. Caitlin, would you like to go next?
I'm Caitlin. I'm a freshman, and I'm part of publicity at 542 WHS.
Hello, I'm Aditya. I am a junior at WHS and I am a programmer.
All right, I guess I can go ahead and get started now. So first of all, you've all been in a situation, let's say you're working on like a report for a project and like you make a change. So then you update it, but you don't want to lose your old report just in case the other one would be better. So you create a version 2. And then the same process repeats over and over and over again. And eventually you end up with something like the very last one where you have like this really complicated name and it's really hard to keep track of what's going on. And this, as you can tell, it is not too bad for one file and one report, but the more files that you have, especially with something as large as your FTC project, this is going to get really hard to manage and really hard to keep track of. So that's why we have Git, which is a version control software, which basically helps us track changes between versions. And it's like a Google Doc where you can see the revision history. So like here you can see that on February 16th of last year, Amr made these changes. And if you wanted to, you can go back to the old changes if you feel like that would be better. So that's sort of what Git does in a general sense. And it's like the Google Docs revision history, but it's more manual and you can track changes between between versions. So now there are two main things that you need to know the difference between. The first one is Git. So Git is a piece of software that runs on your computer. So it's something on your computer that you'll be able to use to access GitHub, which is a storage place for all your code on the internet. So for example, if you make changes on your computer and you want to push it onto the internet, then you're going to use both Git and GitHub. GitHub will be on the internet and Git will stay on your computer. So yeah, so what we were talking about there is basically pushing to the remote. So what's on your computer? So the computer here would be Git and the cloud up here would be GitHub, and you're transferring files from your computer to the cloud and the internet. So now I'm going to go into more details about using GitHub specifically in FTC. But before that, does anyone have any questions? All right, I guess not. So basically the main piece of code that the collection of code that's on GitHub is called a repository. And as you can see on the picture right here, this is the First Tech Challenge FTC Robot Controller repository. And with this, you can do many things like you can clone, which is basically create a copy of it on your local computer. You can fork it, which creates a new repository just like it. You can pull or push, which is update the code on your computer or move your code onto the GitHub repository, or you can download it as a zip file. Of course, you're going to need different permissions to do all of these. And yeah, so this is the FTC robot controller. It is made for people who want to use Java with Android Studio for their FTC projects. And this repository is made by First with examples for different things like vision and sensors, and also a lot of the code that helps transfer the code that you write onto the phones and onto and actually do stuff with the control and expansion hubs. And the link for the repository is right here, github.com/firsttechchallenge and FTC robot controller. So if you go to that link right here, it'll take you to the this page, and this is what we call the GitHub repository, and everything on here is what you're going to be working with. So to get started, some things that we use are you'll need Android Studio, which is what you'll use to edit your code and to make sure that and to basically write all of your code in. It's what we call an IDE, or an integrated development environment. And what that does is, it instead of having to write your stuff in like Notepad or something, it gives you a lot of tools, especially debugging tools, which are really helpful while you're trying to write your code. Uh, you can use Android Studio. Another alternative is also IntelliJ. They're basically the same thing. Android Studio is built off of IntelliJ, but IntelliJ gives you a little bit more freedom when it comes to writing code related to other Java stuff, and you don't have to do Android specific stuff. And another thing that you'll need is Git and Git Kraken. So Git is the piece of code that runs on your computer, and Git Kraken what we is what we call a Git GUI, which basically means it gives you an interface for you to access Git. On its own, Git is a command line client, so it is also really hard to use without good knowledge, without a lot of reading and understanding. So I prefer to use Git Kraken. It is what our team's been using for a while, and it takes a lot of the Git command line stuff and makes it a lot more intuitive and easier to use. So instead of having to type in commands on command prompt, you can just click different buttons on Git Kraken. And finally, you'll need a GitHub account, which is basically what you'll need to create your repository. So does anyone have any questions on that first part? All right, so I guess next we'll talk about the FTC robot controller app repository. So what you're gonna have to do is first create your version of this code, because right now, if you look at this, you can see that this is the one released by First, and you aren't allowed to update or change it, because those changes would go to everybody in First Tech Challenge. So instead, what we do is you have multiple different options. The first one is that you can fork the repository by clicking the fork button up here. What this does is it creates your own copy of the repository, and you can do it either to your GitHub account or a GitHub account of your entire team if you have multiple different programmers working on it. And another option is that you can import the FTC code into a new repository. To do that, you go to GitHub, the regular page, you go to repositories up here, you press on new, and then you can select the owner, whether it's your account or your team account. And in the repository name, you can give it a name. I'll just say GitHub Workshop for now. And you can click on import a repository, and you can put your old code right here and then retype the name. And then you can set it to whether it's public so that anyone on the internet can access and see it, or private so only a certain amount of people can see and access and commit to the repo. And then once you press begin import, it's going to start copying all of the full files over to the new repository. And this usually takes a while, so I'm not going to do it during the workshop. All right. And then finally, once you do that, you're going to have to clone the repository. And what this means is, let's say I'll go to our code for this year. You can see right here, you can click downloads or clone right here. And what you'll need is you'll have to copy this link and open up Git Kraken. and this will help you clone the repo. What that does is it basically creates a copy of it on your local computer, and that help basically allows you to so if you click on clone repository, you can put in the URL right here and where you want to clone it to. And then if you press clone, it's going to create a copy of whatever's on GitHub on your local computer. And I have already cloned this, and it usually takes a while, so I'm not going to do it in the workshop. So does anyone, and then finally, you can open up Android Studio or IntelliJ. So I'm using IntelliJ right now, but you can go here and then uh, you can click on open, or you'll usually be met with a different screen. So that looks something like this. And what you'll do is create on open or import, and you'll just find where in your computer you have it downloaded and cloned, and you'll click on that, and then you'll press OK, and then it'll open everything up. So that's what the first 3 steps are for creating a new FTC robot controller app repository using GitHub, and how you can clone it, open it up in a folder, and open it up in Android Studio. So does anyone have any questions on that first part?
I have a quick question.
Oh yeah.
So you mentioned Git. Like, what exactly is that? And like, should I like, and what exactly does it do? What exactly does it do for you?
Okay, so Git is a piece of software that runs on your computer. Uh, what that does is it helps you do all these different things like clone and push, pull, and download. And those are all the things that you would need to do in a repository. So for example, back here, uh, Git helps you do all these different things. So for example, if you want to push whatever you have on your local folder, that folder that you selected, and if you want to push that onto GitHub, you're going to need Git to do that. And Git runs on your computer, so it helps you communicate with the GitHub repository on the internet.
Okay, so is that like I guess an alternative to the GitHub desktop app?
Uh, it's an alternative, yes. I think when you download Git Kraken, it automatically downloads Git, but if it doesn't, just you can find it on the internet and click the download button, and it should be there.
Okay, so Git Kraken is like just a, I guess the client for Git.
Yeah, Git Kraken is
Okay,
a Git client.
got it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
does anyone else have any other questions? All right. I guess then I can move on to the next step, which is I already showed you guys all this stuff, and this is updating the FTC Robot Controller app. So let's say that you like every once in a while, FTC will actually release a new version of the repository, a new updated version with new code and new things like that. So what you'll need to do to update your code is if you open up Git Kraken, uh, you can update your code so that it'll basically use the new code onto here. And what you'll need to do is create a new remote branch. You could give it whatever name you want. I think a good practice is to call it upstream. Yeah, upstream like this. And then for the pull URL, you will go back to the FTC robot controller GitHub. So this one right here. And usually they'll have a new update, but since there isn't one for for the ultimate goal season yet, I'll just show you guys what they did with Skystone. So as you can see, they have different releases. So like this one, the latest one was 5.5. And if you were on 5.4, you would copy this link and paste it into the URL right here. And then you would click on add remote. And once you do that, you'll see on the left here that you have this upstream thing. And what you'll do is you will click on this 3 dots right here, giving you branch actions. And these will give you many different things that you can do with this remote branch. And what you want to do is click on merge upstream / master into master. Since I've already done it, it's usually right here. But yeah, if you have a new version, you can click on this, the one that says merge upstream master into master, and that will update the code for you. And what that does is whenever FTC adds in new things uh, like new vision stuff or new examples or new things like that, it'll help you use the new code. So yeah, does anyone have any questions on how to update your FTC robot controller app? All right, so I guess one last thing that uh, this that you'll use using GitHub is commits. So let's say on IntelliJ, you made a couple of changes. So I wrote this simple class the other day, and as you can see, our other team's changes are here, but mine isn't up there already. So what you want to do is on the right here, you can see that there's stage all changes. So what this does is, as you can see, you have all of the different changes that we've made. And this is, like for example, I added in this op mode to teach one of our new members. And what this will do is it's basically going to take what we have on our computer and add it onto the GitHub repository. And if you click on stage all changes, what this will do is it'll package them into what we call a commit. And what these commits are is specific like packages of updates that you want to push onto the repository. So let's say I want to include Trenton tests, but not this other class, then I would only click on that one file to stage, and then it'll only update the this code right here onto the repository, not the changes I've made up here. So let's say you're done with this, but not done with the other one, then you would only stage the one that you are finished with and you want other people to be able to access and see. So once you press on stage all changes, you can type in a commit message. What this is a short description to let other people know what was going on with your thing. So for example, I'll just give this test for one of our new members. And a description that's slightly longer, I'll just be like talked about servos and motors. And then you can commit changes to one file. So then as you can see right here, you have this commit has shown up on your branch, but as you can see, you only have a computer next to it. That means it's local. So the commit it's been committed. So that means that you can now, you've packaged it into a commit and it's only on your computer right now. Git hasn't pushed it onto the internet yet. So in order to push it onto GitHub, you're gonna have to press this push button right here. And what that'll do is, as you can see, the remote repository right here. This is the one on the internet. It's going to take whatever we have right here and push it onto the internet. And once it's done, you can see that it's all updated. Next, we have, if you go back to the code on GitHub, you can see that on our 2021 repository, you can see that inside of our team code, you have this commit right here. And whatever was on my computer is now on the internet. So does anyone have any questions on committing and that whole process? And yeah, if you guys have any questions later on, feel free to contact us. I'll leave our contact information at the very end. And another thing that you're gonna need along with committing is what it's called pulling. So let's say you find one of your files, and I'll just do like one of our tests, for example, this Trenton test that I just made, and you can edit the file on GitHub, and then I'll just add in another like motor, and then if I you can commit the change right here. I'll just be like, all right. And then now if you go back to Git Kraken, once it updates, you can see that there is this test commit that I just created. And what you're going to do is now, instead of your computer being ahead of the repository on GitHub, it's going to be behind. All right. So what this means is that whatever's on GitHub is a newer version than whatever's on your computer. So in order to fix this and make sure that you and the repository are on the same version, you're going to have to press this pull button. And what this pull button what it will do is take whatever's on GitHub and pull it onto your computer. So yeah, so that's what this does. And as you can see, our old code using Git Kraken, the other change that we hadn't staged is still here. And next, another important thing is branching. So let's say you want to do some more changes, but you don't want to edit what you already have, because let's say you want to like still keep it just in case you need to go back, and you still want to make changes onto your old stuff without interfering with new stuff that you're doing. What you'll do is create a branch. So let's say you'll right click here and then click create branch here, and then you'll give it a name. I'll just call it test branch. And what this test branch is right now, since there are no new changes, there is nothing that the two branches are exactly the same. That's why they're tied together like this. But if you click on test branch down here, you can check out that branch, meaning that's the one that you're going to be editing. So when I go into this test right here and then add in another DC motor, for example, right, that new change will come up here on this file. And as you can see, I've added a new DC motor. And if I stage it and then I just give it a test of branches.
I have a quick question.
Oh yeah, what was it?
So I was on the Git Kraken, and I'm trying to clone my my repository because I have to like start. It says I have to upgrade in order to edit like a private repository. But when I tried to do that, it doesn't seem to be working. Like I cloned it, but then when I opened up the clone, it still gave me the upgrade message.
Oh, usually GitKraken works well with public repositories. So you can edit yours to be public, but change permissions so that not everyone can update it. So that random people outside of your organization can't like upload files onto your GitHub. So what we do is we created a GitHub organization for our team. You can find that uh, in here. You could create plus and then new organization, and then you can create a free one and you can give it a name and stuff, and you can add people to your organization. And what that does is it makes it available for anyone within your team to edit. So it'll be a public repository still, but so that you can still use GitKraken, but other people, so random people on the internet can't like mess up your code and things like that. So that's what our
Okay.
team does.
All right. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. So anyway, back to this branch. So now I'll just be committing this file. And as you can see, there's now two different branches. There's a test branch right here and the master right here. And if you push, uh, you'll have to create a new branch on the repository. So on GitHub, because right now everything's been done on your computer. So when you want to push to a new branch, um, you're gonna have to create a new one on there, and you can just click submit and it'll auto create a new one. And now let's say you want to change something back on master. And let's say you go back here, and then as you can see, there's a separate branch. And I will once again edit this. And as you can see, the DC Motor 3 went away because we went back to the old branch that didn't have this commit on it. And I don't know, I'll add in another, or I'll change a different file, uh, like this one right here. This file, I'll stage it. And what this will do is, and I'll commit and then push it. And then as you can see, there is now, once this updates, there are now two branches, one of which test branch is down here that has the third DC motor that I just added, and this second one right here that adds in the other change that I made. And let's say you realize that this is enough for this branch and you want to merge it back into master. You're going to do what's called a merge. And what you're going to do is click on this and drag it into master. And you're going to click merge test branch into master. And what this is going to do, it's going to take all the changes you made in test branch and all the changes on master, and it's going to merge them together to create one new branch that has both sides. And if you edit the same file on two different branches, you're going to get something what's called a merge conflict. And what this will do is you'll basically have to select which of the two branches you want to take code from. So whether it's the master branch or the test branch, you'll basically have to pick which one you want the new branch to use. And once you do that, you can push your code. And as you can see down here, after this commit, we created a new branch. And that branch, after we merged it back into this main one. And in this main branch, you can still see that we have our other commit that we just made on master. So does anyone have any questions on branches or things like that? All right. And another helpful thing with GitKraken helps you do is it's called stashing. So let's say you add in a fourth DC motor, right? And then you have this work in progress right here. You can stash this change. And what this does is it just stores this code in a commit. It isn't going to commit the code. So what's happening is it's not going to create a new commit, but it'll just store it right here on your work in progress right here. And let's say you want to go back to this branch, you can still do that and your old code will still stay there. So that's what a stash is helpful for. And as you can see, since we haven't popped the stash, the code is just going to stay there and it isn't updated even when we go back to master. So then you can do something called pop stash, which is going to unstash it. And now the changes that you made are back. So that's what stashes and pops do. So does anyone have any questions on those? All right, well, that's all we had planned for this GitHub workshop today. If you have any questions, even after the workshop, feel free to contact us at any of our social media. Uh, all right, I see one more question. So if two branches overlap, how does that mess with the repo? If you mean overlap, basically what that creates is called a merge conflict. What a merge conflict is that two different branches have edited the same file, and all you'll have to do to fix that is select the branch that you want to use. So you can't so you can either select one branch, select another branch of that file, or like merge the two and create or like select specific parts of each one. So I can give you an example of that if you want to. Oh, would you prefer that? So let's say on this branch right here, you deleted these two motors. And as you can see, you have a work in progress right here. And then I will create a new branch. I'll call it merge. Oh, okay. I'll just give it for other people who might be watching the recording and might be still confused on what's going on. So once you create this new branch right here, what you're gonna do is check out the new branch, and then you can uh, add back in the motor. So now, I'll create a new motor with a different name. So now you can stage this change, and then you can call it, and then commit this. And then if you go back to master, and then in here, let's just add in a different line of code. Right, and then now you can stage this and commit it. And now if you push your changes on both of these branches, uh, you can see that everything is still fine. But let's say you want to merge these two branches back together, like I talked about before. Uh, yeah, it's just gonna update everything since there wasn't like two specific changes that like overlap with each other. Hold up. All right. Yeah, and then you can push it, and then Git Kraken will automatically deal with that conflict and fix all the overlap. All right, does anyone have any other questions on?
So one more question. So I've created my organization. So now how do I add my repository to the organization?
Okay, so to add a repository to the organization, you can go back to the GitHub home screen
Okay.
and then click on New Repository. Do you see this button right here?
Yep, the new.
Yeah, and then so see this tab that says Owner? You can
Yeah.
either select your account or the organization's account,
Okay.
and then you can set it to public,
All
and
right.
then yeah, and then type in the name and stuff like that.
Okay. But no, so I'm saying that I already have my the repository for the team. Is there a way that I can like add that, or do I have to like clone it into a new repository that I create
Oh,
from
you
the
can click
organization?
on Import a repository up here,
Ah,
and
I
then you
see.
can put in the old repository's clone URL in here, and then select the organization and
Okay,
add it through there.
awesome. All right, thank you.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So what do you think is like the benefit of using Git for in terms of FTC? Because a lot of teams don't use it. So what do you think is like the biggest benefit that you guys have seen by using Git?
Oh, definitely the biggest benefit is being able to work on like different branches and like make changes on certain stuff and not have it affect your old code. So for example, last year in our code, I can show you guys on GitHub. On our code from last year, you can see that we had a lot of different branches, and this helped us do specific things like use a different subsystem or do different things without messing with our original code. And that's like one of the biggest benefits. Another benefit that we had is that like multiple people were able to work on the code at the same time. So like in a meeting, if like I was doing something and like the other team members were doing something else, we could work on the same thing we could work on different things, but still be able to like work seamlessly and have no like issues when we're comparing code. And it's also pretty simple to just push your commits onto GitHub and have GitHub do all of the hard work of combining all of our changes together.